everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Issa Debate. If this is your first time joining us, this is a podcast that we put together 7 friends from the illustrious Howard University, HU. We got together, and during the pandemic, we just could not stop debating each other on House Party about different topics. And now here we are coming to you live with our topics. Now, in this podcast, we pick different topics, and we cannot choose whether we are arguing the affirmative or the opposing side, and we may not always agree with the side that we're arguing. So let's start off with introductions. Who do we have on today's episode?
Yo. Hey, everybody, it's Alex. Sorry, the bandana had me feeling a little frisky. My bad, y'all. My bad. I'm Alex.
Okay.
Too much.
Definitely. Okay. You know what's sad? Y'all are all super sober. This is you. This is your regular.
This is regular.
This is how y'all know this is real. Like, we didn't make this friendship thing up. Like, this is truly just us. We don't know how to behave.
All right. Accept each other.
Back to the intros. Hey, y'all.
Should we start over?
Nope. Keep it.
Makes it fun. One more time. I don't think we heard you.
I'm Lindsay.
I'm olive oil.
You're what? Olive oil?
I'm Paige. Hi.
And I'm Tiani.
And I'm your host today, Alana. I know we said we are 7 friends, but we are down 2 people. Tenna and Christy are not here. But you guys will be missed, and wait till you hear this foolish episode that you are missing. Right, so let's jump in. Right, we have no adult supervision. Let's jump in with the hot topic. You know what season it is. Homecoming. So,
First in town. You know.
All right, y'all. So we're going to be talking about homecoming in this episode of Hot Topics. And I want to know, don't be biased, who has the best homecoming? Lay it on out for us.
May I?
Please.
I don't know many cultural, social references to any other homecoming than one.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead on and say that Howard University is the best homecoming. Now let me back that up because I love to play the game called Claims of Evidence. Q Drake photo, Q any Diddy photo. We've had a number of people come. Q the Ludacris song where I wouldn't miss the homecoming at Howard.
Hello.
But what really makes homecoming is your environment, and DC is such a magnificent cultural center that, like, I mean, it's amazing. You can't top it. Now, are the hotels $200 a night? Absolutely, but you know what I'm saying? It's worth. You getting the bang for the buck. DC has some of the best brunches and best restaurants. All of our DJs come back, and again, no offense to any other, school, but we have some of the best DJs. You may Google this. We have some of the best DJs in the world. We are also many alpha chapters of Greek life. So you're going to have people who did not even attend our school coming down just to be with their alpha chapter. My particular sorority is not an alpha chapter, but we are celebrating 100 years, and there will be a few different chapters of the illustrious Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated at homecoming this year. We will be doing a big shebang on the yard. Stay tuned. But it really isn't close. It's not a discussion. Your country cousins from wherever are going to claim that other people have maybe the greatest homecoming on earth, something like that. But Stop it. It's not that at all. And we do appreciate you for participating in this contest, but you lose. Thank
Yo,
Not the contest.
it wasn't just shots fired. That was a shotgun. Okay.
That was a sawed-off shotgun.
We should go ahead and
Yo, seriously.
Goddamn.
Well, guys, and that wraps up our hot topics.
There's nothing else to be said. I don't know anything else to say. That's
You know
hilarious.
what? I appreciate that breakdown, Tiani, because I actually was, as y'all know, my husband went to A&T, which is unfortunate, but he is a great person deep down inside. Don't judge him on that. Anyway, a lot of, people that we know from his side of friends also attended A&T. And so one of his couple friends, I met them a couple of years ago. We all went out to Utah for a ski trip, which was dope. But they now live in Georgia. They moved back to Georgia. So we went out and hung out with them one night. It was just a bunch of friends hanging out at their house. And so it was a couple of A&T people sprinkled in, but a couple of their neighbors too, just young Black people kicking it, having a good time. And so their cousin was letting me know, like, pretty much their whole family went to A&T. And she was like, but I really want to know, like, is Howard's homecoming as hype as people talk about? And I said, for you to ask that means you need to go, sis, because, okay. So I've been to, and this topic is really about A&T and Howard, because they're the only ones who think they can compete, right? So A&T, their homecoming is cute. I'll give y'all that, right? Because their football team is good. You might actually win your homecoming game. No shade, Howard. Their band is going to give you a little boop, 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 you know what I mean? A nice little throwback song and stuff like that. It's real cute. And I appreciate that. You know what I mean? You giving the homecoming vibe. You're down south, so you get that Southern hospitality. Baby, you gonna get fried fish. Whether you know somebody who's cooking at the tent or not, they gonna feed you, okay? So that's where they get another little point or two. You know what I mean? But after that, that's all they got.
That's all.
Damn. After the football game and after y'all feed me, yeah,
You got fried fish at the house.
That's what they call
Yeah,
G-Ho.
fried fish at the
Okay,
house.
that's what they call G-Ho. They will feed you and they will give you a good football game. But that's it. So I'm just waiting for the additional points to be made on their end as to why they are the greatest. So yeah, that's all I got.
So I want to chime in. As someone, I'm from North Carolina, someone who grew up going to A&T's homecoming many, many years as a child. Centrals too, shout out to NCCU, which is where I got my love for HBCUs. And then of course I went to and graduated, because that's key, from the illustrious Howard University. And so I want to make it clear, homecoming is in itself a time for alumni to come home. Now, I want to make that clear, because I've had conversations with people who have attended Howard's homecoming and said they didn't have fun. Here's the thing. You don't just go to events that you don't know anybody at. It is homecoming. So no, you don't just pop up on campus and you don't know nobody. It's not fun. We have fun. We bring people and they have fun. You need to come home. You're a stranger. It's not for you. And I agree with Alana. A&T will absolutely, the tailgate, completely different setup. DC and Greensboro are not the same cities. Like from a landscape standpoint, DC just doesn't have the square footage. So no, we don't have an A&T tailgate. So no, you're not gonna get 50 people frying fish and grilling and all that. Yes, you'll definitely get fed at A&T's homecoming. No, hands down. You'll probably get a good football game, hands down. But the culture, the experience, fact, a young Black lady who didn't even go to Howard University literally has a modeling career from one photo being present at our tailgate. It's a cultural experience. Like, it is because we're a smaller campus, there's probably half the people that are at A&T just because from a geographical standpoint, we can't have all those people. But the quality, the level of excellence, you're going to be walking past people who are nationally known. I have classmates who have national wine brands, who are Nike DJs, like Yard Runners, shout out to J Murph, who DJ on Apple Music, shout out to Chubby. I have who have brands at Target nationally.
Speak on it.
People you're gonna be walking past, congregating with, dapping up, drinking with. It's an experience. It really is. It is like truly a melting pot of Black excellence that cannot be beat. And that's just what it is. We all family when we get there. Just join the vibes. Just join the vibes.
Anyone else?
You guys basically covered it. And I was gonna bring up the point that Alex made about people coming and not really having fun. But the fact is you wanted to come, right? Okay. My dad went to an HBCU and has never said, we should take a trip. I know plenty of people that went to FAMU, Virginia State, Norfolk State, Lincoln University, the list goes on. Don't know nothing about their homecoming and don't want to find out. I'll leave it there.
So for me, I've been to 2 other HBCU homecomings. Spellhouse, interesting vibes, different. I do love their tailgate setup, but once again, DC, that's not DC. I've been to FAMU's homecoming. Hot as hell.
I was gonna ask if anybody been to FAMU.
Hot as hell.
As hell. And you know, because you're used to going to Howard, you come for the fashions, right? When you know you going to homecoming, you in the text group like, what we wearing? Drop the links, drop the pictures.
Ripped out.
Well, you know, I'm trying to pump me cash on this day. We gonna wear what? I gotta see the dress. What you wear to the club? What?
Right.
So I tried to do that at FAMU, and I was just very uncomfortable because it's still summer there. Okay. So it didn't quite work out. But I must say, the more FAMU people I'm getting to know, right? It goes back to knowing people. Then you have a better experience when you go to their homecoming.
Yeah, that's right.
As my other counterparts have already said, there ain't nothing like a Howard homecoming. My best memory is, I think it was my first year back. Y'all were still in school. And I want to say Paige lived in the towers still.
She gonna say.
They were still in school even though I graduated, but they the ones who made
Well, I am younger than you guys, so this makes sense.
Exactly.
That was when Drake came. It's so funny. People be so, Google is accessible to anybody. They was like, I didn't know Drake went to Howard. Nigga, he did not go to Howard.
Oh, stupid. Okay.
But it rained that day. I think we ran into Douglas, hanging out the windows, watching the whole concert. Nobody left that yard. That day is pouring down rain, and Drake brought out
so packed.
Everybody. I mean, everybody.
I was there that day.
He just kept bringing
2 Chainz.
And it was
Mind you,
for free,
I
by the
believe
way.
these.
This is all for free.
This is all for
just
free.
gotta pee
PR Fest is free. You just
And I
up.
believe they perform for free as well.
Yes. So that was like, and just to go back home and eat the food you used to eat in, you know.
Down at the Ho Chi.
Down at the whole.
Oh man, I want some Ho Chi mambo sauce.
But yeah,
Damn.
I mean, ain't nothing like it.
I
It's
can speak on that.
for
I
sure.
want to just to throw in there, there's also just nothing quite like a Howard University alum. Like, we're just built different. And I think that's the thing. Like, I get it. Everybody wants to hate us so bad. And I get it. Like, if I was me, I would hate me too.
I would too.
I would hate me too. I completely get it. And so that's why, you know, we don't argue with that other school, because why? It's so many schools that want to argue with us, but when we bring facts, it's like, oh, I want to hear that. that other institute that says want to argue with us. So it's like the facts are the facts, so
You can't even say their name because don't nobody include them in the conversation.
No, that's not even worth bringing up. But yeah, I get it.
They're cute. Yeah.
It's
I
okay.
get it. I get it. Shout out to the Mecca. Shout out to the Mecca.
Shout out to the the Mecca, all that.
Country ass. All that.
Hey, country cousins, what Tiana you say? Your country cousin?
Yo, our comments are going to be destroyed. In shambles.
Oh man.
I got nothing but love for the Aggies. I'm not even going front. I got nothing but love. I mean, the facts are the facts, but I love y'all.
The dusty, dirty Aggie. I hope they took his outfit to the cleaner.
I'm so glad Alana has headphones in.
Headphones in. Because we would have.
That's like 3 times.
If you don't get out the frame.
We love you, Dan.
And he got headphones in too, so it don't matter.
Okay.
All right.
Ooh, don't let him listen to this episode.
It's halftime. Oh, and he is our loyal fan, y'all. If y'all get an Atlanta play,
He gonna be like, really, Alana?
Dan is definitely included.
It's Dan.
He gonna have something to
That is
say. He gonna have something to say.
Like you, man. All love over here. All love. Shout out to my Aggies.
All right, y'all. So now we're gonna jump in.
I have a
Alex,
cocktail.
Make this quick.
Ooh, Paige has a cocktail. Paige has a cocktail.
With
Wait,
the
let me
spirit of homecoming, stay hydrated, my friend.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ways to not
'Cause it's
get
coming.
drunk.
Another piece of advice for my homecoming goers. Don't take a nap. What did you think?
Do
I would like
not take a nap. Because that's it. That's
It's
it.
a marathon. You can slow down, but you cannot quit. So
You can't
another thing
stop.
that I think we should ways to avoid the hangover. Like whatever, look up some. All right. Like I'm not a drinker, so I don't really know. But so I heard through the grapevine that BC powder, if you take it beforehand, it works. But I don't know for sure because I don't do BC powder or alcohol, but I heard there are many ways for you to avoid this hangover because if you're hungover from Friday on Saturday or from Thursday, you can't even really enjoy the next day. So, because you might be like some people and then be in bed till 3 p.m. the next day. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. So, what you want to do is be able
This
to
is very
maximize
shady.
your fun
Don't want that.
by preventing your hangovers.
Well, if you
Drink water,
are going to
y'all.
homecoming and Lindsay is present in your household, y'all ain't staying in bed. Lindsay's gonna be like,
Let's
get
go.
up. It's time to go.
Because I know once I hit the
She'll
sheet,
keep you on point.
we going to bed and we gonna
It's
be
a wrap. It's a wrap.
yeah, ain't no
Drink water, guys. Like, don't just, you need to drink before, but like you need to be drinking water throughout the day. So, fun fact from the Crafted Soul. It takes an hour for your body to metabolize one alcoholic drink. So that's 1.5 ounces of liquor. It takes an hour. So when you drink 3 drinks and at one time, it's taking 3 hours for your body to break that down. So pace yourself. It's a marathon. Drink water in between. Okay. So if you keep the fluids in, you're helping your body break it down. But I would say if you're of a particular age, we are of a particular age, maybe stay away from shots. That's not a good idea.
Sounds like
Drink. But also
right page.
stay away. Okay, this is a public service announcement for the young alum. Stay the hell away from them Greek men's drinks. Stay away from that Q oil. Stay away from that blue shit that the Sigmas have, whatever the red shit the Kappas have. Stay away from it.
I mean, you only live once, but you really got to make sure you about that life.
Why when you said Greek, I'm thinking olives and feta cheese.
From the Greek in the group.
Absolutely not.
Stay away from the fraternities, okay? Because there is an ignorant amount of sugar and alcohol in those drinks, and you will be sick. And this is coming from personal experience.
Oh,
You all put a girl down, okay? Put me down. And I don't even think I had a whole cup of it, okay? Stay away from them. Stay away from them. Don't let them lie to you about being wholesome men. It's a lie.
That Kappa punch be hitting though. I ain't gonna
Don't
lie.
let that Kappa.
There's the
This is
woman
from
who
a woman married
married
to
the
a Kappa. You
They
see
not
her shoulders.
They
She
is
got
not.
that Kappa punch still in her damn bloodstream. Don't listen to
I
her.
got
Don't listen
Clearly
to
it
her.
worked on her. She married him. He
Clearly.
in the background right now.
You know what? Don't listen to me. She got a Kappa husband. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Just stay away.
But if you would have asked me in college if I would have ended up with a Kappa, Alice can tell you.
Okay, we're off
We
topic.
That'd
going
have
off
been a hell
subject. I'm about
no.
to say we getting into your
Okay.
Really
personal
gonna be
life.
in trouble.
All
Just a
right.
second.
That was gonna be it.
We about to be for real in trouble. We not doing this.
To go see the chiropractor. What?
It's these shoulders.
Alex, you got a lot to cut out of this episode, okay?
So much. Alex,
Okay. Because Van gonna disown me.
is-
He gonna be like, what the hell?
but she has to edit this episode specifically because she was a part of the foolishness, so she can't even really be mad.
Well, all right.
It is going to disown your ass. You're like, what the fuck, Lana?
All right, yeah. So here we are. Now it is time to debate. All right. So today's topic is Black Cocoon. Okay. And for those of y'all that do not know what that means, here's a little background. So this debate will be centered around Black people being raised in environments that are predominantly Black. Like, we don't have to interact with white folks, okay? And there are people who have grown up in communities and then continued on to even attend HBCUs. But either way, we're focusing on this predominantly Black community. Cool. All right. So, in today's debate, all right. So, today's topic is Black Cocoon. And so the question is it beneficial to grow up in an environment that is exclusive of other races? All right. Our debaters today, in the affirmative, we have Tiani. And on the opposing side, we have Alex. Ladies, are y'all ready to go?
Yes.
Awesome. We'll start with Tiani.
All right. Before I get too deep in it, I want to clarify what I am saying and what I'm not saying. So I'm going to start there. What I am saying is that when you intentionally raise your children in a predominantly Black environment, it is better for their self-esteem, self-identity, and self-development. What I am not saying, all right, and I'm going to say that again. What I am not saying, I'm not saying that you should not equip your child to thrive in the world that is multicultural. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying you should not start there. All right. So child development starts at a very early age and it actually continues all the way to the age of 25. What I'm saying is for the first few 15 to 18 years, you need to take your child and be intentional about how you raise them. I think you should, and I do believe it's genuinely beneficial to, if religion is your thing, no matter what your religion is, put them in a Black church. Black church not only explains whatever religion you believe, but it actually shows you how to, one, learn. So a lot of people had a different experience of learning and teaching outside of school in church through Sunday school, vacation Bible school, et cetera, et cetera. It actually helps your child's learning ability because they get extended learning. Also through the church, your child has many opportunities to do things, especially if you go to a Black church, to step, to dance, to sing, to find different ways to express themselves. Public speaking is a personal skill that I picked up. My church is very small, so me and my brother found ourselves on program a lot. I have zero problems speaking in front of a crowd of any size due to my public speaking skills. You all right, Lindsay? never mind. In addition to a Black church, a Black school. The reason why we need Black schools, or that you should send your children to Black schools, is what you fail to realize is many of your child's white teachers are Karens. And I'm not saying they're doing that intentionally. They just think of your child differently, and so they teach your child differently. There is a couple of research articles that I've found. One main one from Temple University, that white teachers have lower expectations for Black students. You don't have that problem at a Black school. You don't. Because Black children, Black teachers view Black children as people. No offense. Also, a Black neighborhood. Now, a Black neighborhood can look many different ways because Black is different, but a Black neighborhood allows your child to be themselves freely in their own environment, to be safe at home. That is important. To feel safe at home is very important to a child's self-esteem and self-identity. I use the word intentionally because I do understand that there are people who, due to socioeconomic status or just due to the region that they live in, they actually end up raising their children in a cocoon. But if you are not raising your children in a cocoon intentionally, i.e. reinforcing that you are a culture and not just a fringe of a European culture or the fringe of an American culture, that you are the central character in your own story, then it won't come out the same. The result will not be the same. So that's my introduction of an argument. A Black church, a Black school, and a Black neighborhood will greatly benefit any Black child.
All right. Thank you, Tiari. Next, Alex.
All right. So my counterpart is arguing in favor of this Black cocoon, Black schools, Black neighborhoods, Black churches. And in the year 2022, I have to say, unfortunately, those predominantly Black areas in the majority of this country are not equal. There is not this separate but equal mentality that actually goes on. And I fear that's what she's describing is a utopian mindset, but not actually the reality. Case in point, 72.4%, and this is from an article actually from Temple as well, out of 2020, of Black students are in economically segregated schools. This leads to reduction of access to good teachers, resources. It doesn't present these children with a level playing field. And then when you look at neighborhoods, the majority of Black people in this country are living in neighborhoods where their social economic status is lower than the majority of the country. They are experiencing a reduction in overall resources. Schools are underfunded. They have lack of access to full service grocery stores. They have lack of access to safe playgrounds, safe parks. They don't have reliable transportation, don't have reliable healthcare. All of these things are factoring in to the overall well-being of this child. There is a correlation between the low test scores and low math scores for Black students in relation to the areas that they live in. And this is not necessarily the fault of Black people. This is a political battle that we're fighting. When you look at zoning laws and redlining effects that have happened, hundreds of years ago that are still taking an effect to us now, it has affected these Black neighborhoods. And so while the mindset that we can all grow up in these Black environments that are safe and protected, that might be the case in small segments in certain areas, but the majority of the country doesn't have that privilege where they are able to live in Black insulated environments that still give them the same resources, same access, same safety and protection that other neighborhoods do. I'm not against the idea of Black cultures and Black people impressing this love and growth and safety on our Black children. But the reality is that if we step outside of our cocoon into the other areas of the world that happen to be maybe white spaces, it effectively become a detriment to ourselves because we don't offer our children the same opportunities or access to other things that may require stepping outside of our Black cocoon and comfort zone and safety zone. So that's my intro.
All right. Valid points made on both ends. Tiani, what you got to say?
Rebuttal time. What I heard was not realistic, less resources, underfunded schools, unreliable healthcare, and not the same safety. Going to knock those down one at a time in reverse. Black neighborhoods are safer for Black kids because it would be less racism. And that's really the point for all of those. I'm happy that she brought up healthcare because my God, the dangers of healthcare to Black people is absolutely insane. If you look at any actual medical data, they have variables that literally account for the fact that they genuinely believe and have done experiments on the fact that Black people can tolerate more pain. So I see what you're saying, but I would rather be what you imagine to be safety in other people, which is a beautiful and trusting place, because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Even in our underfunded schools, we still end up in the same universities, if not a better university. Even in our underfunded, less resourceful schools, we are still the majority of the NFL, the majority of the college football teams, majority, like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just not seeing it. I do know that there are backwoods towns of Black people, but there's also those same backwoods towns of white people with less resources, underfunded schools, unreliable healthcare, and they are not good places for anybody. I don't think the idea here is to genuinely avoid racism, because you can't. The idea here is to build what you can while you can. Like, you have 10 to 15 years of development before you have to put them in a number of dangerous situations on a daily basis. And if you can get them for just those 10 to 15 years, like, this is how people should treat you, this is how people shouldn't treat you. If you go to the doctor and they're not listening to you, I know better. I know other doctors. There are Black doctors in that field. There are, Black schools that are underfunded but still produce. I hear what you're saying, I do, but I think it's worth the risk, personally.
Okay.
So I too hear what my counterpart is saying, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying that I don't think it's worth the risk, and I don't think that it is a good thought process. I think what I'm saying is that we also have to take into fact the reality of the world that we live in. I think ultimately the idea and the mindset of having your family and your children raised in this Black cocoon, in this beautiful society where we can go to Black doctors and we can have Black educators and we can, have someone who cares for us, which is a reason I went to an HBCU, someone who sees you as a person. I think that's an amazing idea, but I think we can't take out the fact of the reality is that undertones of these Black neighborhoods and things above that, socioeconomics and financial resources and availability things is really the thing that's kind of holding us back. So let's talk about the healthcare. Yes, we see the statistics of Black women being ignored by doctors, specifically pregnant Black women, about pain, because effectively they don't see us as human. And so they kind of negate our pain. And so, yes, it would be much better to go see a Black doctor, maybe specifically a Black female doctor who sees you as a person and has more of empathy for you and recognizes your pain. But the reality is, how much access is there for the majority of this country to these Black doctors? It's not widely spread. And so it's not an issue of we don't want to see the Black doctors. We don't necessarily have access to these Black doctors. Schools, yes, there are students who come out of underfunded schools and do amazing things and still excel, but the majority of them don't, because they don't have the right textbooks. They don't have the resources to teach them the things they don't. And they might not have, there aren't a lot of, high level educators going to schools that are low funded. They want to teach at the higher funded schools. They want to have access and resources to these things. And so, you know, even if your kids are going to these schools in these Black neighborhoods, which from a political standpoint have become underfunded because the government's not caring and not giving them the same resources they're giving to the next neighborhood that is a little more affluent than yours, your kids aren't getting the updated textbooks. They're not getting teachers who actually care, who stick around long enough to build those relationships with these kids. And so they're still not getting the same access and the same opportunities. And then when you look at a standpoint of the violence and crime, which you brought up, yes, kids, in a sense, when they're in a insulated neighborhood that is just Black, they're not necessarily having to deal with the ideas or the issues of racism and the violence that is assumed with that. But the other side of that is that we get a lot of violence in Black neighborhoods because a lot of people in those neighborhoods lack. And so when you're in a environment where you're lacking and you don't have access to things and you're constantly struggling, it puts a strain on you that makes you want to take steps where you have to, you know, you have to do whatever you have to do to survive. And that's what a lot of times leads to that violence. Also, those neighborhoods tend to be not the right word, but they tend to be more regulated by cop presence, which I'm not going to get too deep into the whole cop thing, but a lot of times there's this mentality of you have these Black communities, they're low funded, they're maybe poor areas, and now it's got this high presence of police. And so now you're putting your kids at even more risk because there's all these cops all over the place because they have this ideal. So again, I'm not saying that the idea of a Black cocoon is not a good idea. I'm just saying that we also have to take in effect the reality of whether that's actually possible for the majority of the country right now.
Well, dang. Marley, we didn't need your comments. Okay, you're not a debater today. All right.
Thank you.
Now, just to recap, before we get into final comments, okay, to make sure me and the audience is following along correctly. On the affirmative side, we have, look, we need to stick in our circles, you know what I mean? Black schools, Black churches, Black neighborhoods. We don't need for whites infiltrating, okay? Not that those were quotes, but I'm just giving the people what they need, okay? Also,
interpretation.
Yeah. Also, on the opposing side, we're saying, yeah, that's cute and all, but what is the reality of these Black cocoons in the United States as a whole? Not in these small pockets, but as a whole, how is this feasible? Any final comments? Tiani, it's on you, boo.
So, as opposed to the realistic thing, I guess I'm not seeing that only because every major city I've ever lived in had Black doctors and Black lawyers. We've gone to many schools and we also discussed many HBCUs that produce Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black teachers. And I'm not saying they, any better than their white counterparts, but I'm not seeing the access problem. And again, it might just be me. I've lived in New Orleans. I lived in Baltimore, which I love Baltimore. I promise you I do. A scary place. Has Black doctors, has Black lawyers, has, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of a Black community that does not have enough Black doctors, Black lawyers, and Black teachers to make this happen. And you might be able to help me out. Like even Flint. I'm finding it hard. I'm sure there are smaller, much tinier Black communities that don't have these things, but it's not that you don't have a point. I'm struggling to come up with an example of it. That's all.
Alex?
I'm glad you see my point. I do want to say when we talk about these major cities, DC has a Black medical school. Baltimore has a major medical school. Atlanta has a major Black medical school. Houston has one of the largest medical districts in the country. So yes, these major cities have access to Black doctors because they have access to medical care. But North Carolina, I don't think, Carolina might have a medical school, but Carolina is a very much white school. North Carolina is one of those schools. In certain cities, major cities of North Carolina, so Durham is a predominantly Black city. Well, it used to be. It's not so much anymore. And Raleigh and Charlotte a little bit too. So yes, you probably have access to black healthcare there. But I live in Greensboro, the major area here, and as a black woman looking for black doctors, it's not exactly accessible as all the time. And it's not a lot of them. There are some there, but there's not a lot of them. Regardless is that when we have this debate, I think a lot of times we look at these major cities, but that's just a fraction of the world and of the country. And we're looking at these other neighborhoods, that we might not think about. And they, okay, so we look at Atlanta, but we're not looking at, the neighborhoods outside of Atlanta, because Atlanta is a very small portion of Georgia. And so we have to look at it all as a whole. Again, I am all for the idea of a Black cocoon, but I think that there are things that need to be dealt with beforehand before that could be a viable situation in a reality.
Well, thank you, ladies. I feel as though the talk afterwards is about to be spicy. But before we jump into that, we do need to take a vote because there are 2 voters. If it results in a tie, I, Alana, as the host, will be stepping in to break that tie. So let's start with Lindsay. Who do you have a vote for?
Do I just say my vote? I can't.
Yes.
Are y'all?
No, not yet. We're gonna ask you why, but you can't answer that yet. Okay, voting for Tiani. Tiani has 1 point. Paige. This is hard, honestly. Please don't do that.
My vote is also going to Tiani.
Wow. I don't even have to be the tiebreaker.
But I was trying to think, should I make you the tiebreaker?
I want to say
no, too late. Now, all right. Woo-hoo,
I'm mad we all did this. What the hell is this? I'm mad we all did. We all did it at the same time.
That means go.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Debaters. First, share your true opinion, whether you agree with your argument or not, and then give me, some opinion as to what you had to say. So we'll start with Alex since Tiani started the argument. Do you agree with your argument?
To a degree, I do. I love the idea of a Black cocoon and being raised in the protection and everything that it brings. But I do think that there are things in the world that makes that not necessarily feasible for everyone. And I kept thinking about like Tiani growing up in New Orleans, which is a predominantly Black culture. And like your school was Black, and the things you were around were Black people. And so I say that because I didn't grow up around that. And so I grew up in a predominantly white school and, not white areas. Like I had the Black church and all of that, but my school was white. And so I just think about the fact that sometimes it's not possible to get away from that. Like I lived in Chapel Hill, there was no Black school option. These were the schools. They were both white schools. And so sometimes it's not feasible. I think that the thought of like, if I can do that, sure. But I just think that there has to be a reality aspect of like, is that, not saying it's not a good idea. I just don't know that it's always realistic.
Yeah.
As Alex said, I don't think I ever appreciated New Orleans more until I moved to other places. Like people talk so bad about it. It's this, it's that, murder capital, whatever. But I mean, gosh, does it produce a strong Black group of people? And I would wholeheartedly Black cocoon any children I accidentally end up with. Like it would be intentional. I thought y'all was gonna let that slide. Yeah, I thought we was gonna let that go. So close. It would be intentional, and like I said, due to my experiences, like and I didn't want to put this in my argument because I was trying my extreme hardest not to be racist. But the 1 year that I did go to school with white people, it wasn't worth it. Like the better education, the better, like we were exposed to a lot. Like I had never seen real drugs before. I had never heard about school shootings and actually having gun on campus. I had never heard about making bombs and stuff. Like never had people actually drunk on campus. Like it wasn't worth the sacrifices. And me and my mom just had a conversation about this about a month ago. Like I said, girl, kudos to you. I know you didn't mean it, but you did good. You know what I'm saying? You did good in the schools that you put us in, and the people that you kept us around, and the consistent support that we got. Like to this day, people still call and be like, ask my mama, how's Tiani doing? And people don't even know what I look like anymore. But you know what I'm saying? They still calling it, how's she doing? And she all right over there? They don't even know where I stay. They think I still live in Baltimore. Like they just sweethearts from the church. I do believe what I was arguing. And again, I would wrap any child in a Black cocoon, minimum 10 years, minimum 10 years. After 10 or 12, by all means, let's go see the world. But I need you to know a little bit about you. I need you to be poured into the way you can only be poured into through those three different institutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I do agree with that. I do.
Mm-hmm. Can I say why I voted yes now?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
It goes perfectly. The reason I say yes to Tiani is because she started off with how a Black cocoon supports building self-awareness, self-identity, just so much in regards to loving yourself as being Black. That's why I voted for that. Once you get into the other things that were discussed, that's where you talk about socioeconomics and what you have access to. So for me, that was a different argument. The Black cocoon to me is just self-awareness, self-loving, everything Black. I love myself. And so when I was young, I started off in a Black community, right? All the way to middle school. So that's all I really knew. Black. Oh yes. And I was still, but my parents had the opportunity to move me out of something, I'm not gonna say better, but to move me to something that she thought was better. I'm so glad that now people can live in Black communities and still get top tier or whatever, right? Back then, I feel like our parents were taught like white is right. And I feel like we've had this conversation before. So once I got to middle school, my mom was like, oh no, we about to move. And we moved to a predominantly white neighborhood. And there it was just like, I grew up in Black community. And like Alex said, once we moved, everything still was Black besides school. But you don't realize you go to school for 8 or more hours, right? So now you're surrounded by people that are different than you. And what stuck with me, because I cried for 2 weeks and I wanted to move back with my grandma. I'm just like, I don't get this. These people ask me, do I play basketball? I never thought about basketball a day in my life. And mom was like, that's when we started having different conversations about stereotypes and different things. Like I didn't have to worry about that when I was growing up in the all Black, community. But my grandma told me this. She said, you're going to have to learn how to work with all kind of people. So now that you're introduced to this, use it to your advantage. What are you going to learn? What are you going to take from it? And so I had to look at it as like, this is just teaching me more personable skills, how to be cultured in certain things, how to interact with certain people, which then you get into the what do you call it when you
code switch.
Code switching.
Right? And people will tell, I hear teachers say that, baby, I know that's how we talk right here, but when you're doing an interview or when you're doing this, I need you to talk with the English vernacular, which is, good morning, my name is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You can't sit down in an interview and be like, what's up? I'm here to talk about what I gotta, like, you can't do that. And so that's when you get into code switching, which is another debate. But that's why I voted yes for Tiani, because being in a Black cocoon just builds so much within yourself, teaches you so much, and you learn all Black people are not the same, right? They aren't. We may look, had the same little shade, cappuccino, mocha, whatever. But we grew up differently. And I've definitely learned you learned it at Howard. Like you learn about the diaspora, so many people from so many places, yet we all look the same, but we are not the same at all. So I end with that.
Paige, you want to chime in? All right.
I mean, no. So, okay, Lindsay basically said everything that I wrote down. So it was the same statement from Tiani that immediately I was like, oh, she's on to something here. Now Alex's argument, I also agree with, and I agree with it in 1965, which I believe is the reason that we worked or fought so hard for integration. But now that like everybody has already said, now that we are in a place where we're not getting textbooks that are 3 editions behind, we're not walking into schools where the pipes are made out of lead or whatever. I mean, well, whatever.
Look, we're not gonna go down that road.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Biden gave billions of dollars to fix that. So
we have access
we'll talk about that later.
to more. Yeah. We have access to more is what I'm getting at. And so I think you both did great. What else did I have to say here? Okay, so I was also raised, I believe my mom did her best to do a Black Cocoon type of raising with me. And so this even went into like the toys that I played with. I was dying for a Molly American Girl doll, and I was not allowed to get any American Girl doll until I got Addie. Addie, if you don't know, was a runaway slave. And like, I understand that she's Black, but why would I want a slave doll, right? And then all of my doctors, my pediatrician, my dentist, my orthodontist, my dance teachers, my church, like everything was Black. And I could not appreciate that again until I moved to Wisconsin. And now it's time for me to look for a doctor. And now I'm being told that I'm like 2 burgers away from obesity. And if you know me,
there is no obesity there. Let me say, I would never lie for her. There is no obesity there, but you're being told all types of foolishness.
I'm not a big girl.
I'm not, I have no ass, I have nothing, okay? And so my point is that when you are placed in situations where people are judging you based off of standards that don't apply to your, what is the word? Is it archetype?
Sure.
It doesn't work. Okay.
Google on SAT.
Yeah, Google that because Alex might have to cut that out.
Archetype.
That's wrong.
Archetype seems right. It seems right.
It's giving me architecture.
I'm just gonna keep talking. So when you're going through things like that, or when you're when you go to a high school and people are telling you, oh, Paige, I act more Black than you because I wear hoop earrings and I have, you guys remember in like 05, 06 when they had the nameplate belts?
Yes.
I don't want that shit. But now you're more Black than me because you have one. Girl, get the fuck on, okay? So it was not until I went to Howard, where I was completely encapsulated in Blackness, that I would consider myself being comfortable with me being Black. Yes. And I have had a lot of coworkers post-college come to me and make comments about, well, how are you going to, learn how to interact with people in the real world? But it's only because of the confidence that you build in an HBCU that you're able to go into a world and deal with people saying foolish shit to you in the office or at the store or whatever. So thank you, ladies.
So the whole time I'm torn, so I'm glad I didn't have to vote because I don't know. I'm torn on the topic because I'm thinking more holistic. And I feel like growing up in the DMV or growing up in, like, I grew up in Delaware. It's a lot of Black people, but it ain't enough.
It's not
Like, it's no, like, all Black communities. You know what I mean? Like, you're always going to be mixed with mainly white people, some Hispanic, but mainly white people, right? And so, like, all the schools are like that. And it's just the ratio is going to go up or down. Teachers, Black teachers specifically, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have a Black teacher until I went to Howard.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know, like, okay, I'm sorry, excuse me, take that back. I did have a Black teacher. My mother.
So
that's
say
why
you
I
bring your
overlooked
mama
that.
class.
You know what I
I
mean?
was
Don't be down and
say,
caring like that.
No, I'm
don't
not.
talk
I'm
bad
not.
about her.
Everybody in, who has had her as a teacher loves her, and they still be asking me about that lady. But I'm just saying, like, that was my Black teacher experience, and that was my mother. So to me, it didn't count because I live with you, lady. Like, excuse me, Sam's making a mistake, and now I'm joking. But yeah, like, I appreciated the fact that she was that to someone. You know what I mean? But, like, to me, I felt like I never got that. And so that was my main push to go to an HBCU. Thank God it was Howard. But regardless, I think that was the main thing. Like, I knew I was going to HBCU regardless. My mom is the one who has had the mentality of mixing us with other people. Go ahead, Alex.
No, keep going.
Oh, okay. I was like, you had a comment on what I said? Okay. My mom is the one who has always had the mentality of mixing us with other people. And so that's why, like, I told you, like, all the schools, it's just ratio. You know what I mean? Is it going to be more Black people or less Black people? And so she's always been like, yeah, one, I'm a teacher and I'm looking at test scores. And the schools that more Black people went there, the test scores, she was not approving us to choice or go or bus whatever to that school. You know what I mean? So, like, in our neighborhood, the school district that we would have been going to for high school with all the other kids, she was like, we're not doing that. So me and my brother went to different high schools. And so I get why she did what she did. But she also, I mean, my dad worked in Philly. She didn't want to live in a Black neighborhood. And I don't know what that was about, but I feel like I have adopted some of that thought process. And for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't tell you why I wouldn't want to live here versus here. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like your kids can't go to a different school or you can't put them in a specific school that you want them to go to. It's not like that isn't an option. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm on the fence, because I'm still figuring out my perspective on raising kids now that I have one and what type of environment I want him to live in. Yes, I want him to know Black people and I want him to interact. You know what I mean? But even our household is a melting pot as far as, his first cousins who are a year older than him are half Black and half Mexican. If you looked at them, you'd be like, do they have Black in them? You know what I mean? Like, but it's going to be a melting pot of a family regardless. But I just want my children to have a well-rounded experience. Not saying they can't get that if they live in an all Black community, you know what I mean, in that Black cocoon versus growing up how I did. But it's just a hard balance to strike to me. You know what I mean? Like, as to what's right and what's wrong. But I will say one thing, that besides my OB, who is not Black, but she is my biggest advocate, and I will never leave that lady. After I had Rhodes, I realized she is my biggest advocate. But besides her, having Black healthcare providers, unmatched. Like we doing that.
Is your
We
OB
doing that. But,
white, Alana?
yeah, she's white.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if she was another ethnicity.
No, she's white. But when I first started going to her, you know, a lot of the talk was about Black women dying.
Yes.
And so she brought it up to me.
Yeah.
She initiated the conversation with me. And it took me back because I was trying to figure out how to bring it up to her and what her approach would be as I'm going through this pregnancy. Because I was high risk my entire pregnancy. I had high blood pressure. And so I was at risk for developing preeclampsia. And she just, to me, like, she was on everything. Things I had questions about, things I was worried about, she was addressing with me before I could even ask my questions. You know what I mean? So at the end of the appointment, they're usually like, okay, do you have any questions? And I'm scrolling through my phone like, let me see what else I got. You know what I mean? Because we've already discussed it. We've already talked about it. She's already made me comfortable. She knew I didn't want to immediately have a C-section. You know what I mean? But once you stop dilating, I mean, honestly, your health is at risk and so is the baby's. You know what I mean? And I went 4 or 5 hours without dilating anymore. And she was like, this is what we have to do. But also with the pain tolerance, that shit I learned is real as hell because I got an epidural and my first epidural did not take and I was still in pain. And they give you this little thing that you can hit and it'll give you another boost of, you know, the medicine within a certain amount of time. They'll still give you an extra boost. And I'm like, yo, I'm still feeling these contractions. Like, y'all ain't just stab me in my spine. And the nurse is like, well, I mean, how many times did you hit the button? You know what I mean? Like, as if I wasn't feeling what I was feeling. And I'm like, yo, sis, like, I don't feel a difference. Like, I feel like I should be riding the wave in this chair and really I could get up and walk around and figure out my contractions myself. You know what I mean? So it was just the fact that she was just like, I mean, you'll probably have to wait till the next hour for your next dose, pretty much. You know what I mean? Versus actually listening to me and recognizing that my shit didn't take. So I don't know. It's just a lot, but it's also your perspective changes once you are put in those environments where, you know, Black people are here to take care of you. So that's, again, I'm here on the fence. I'm still figuring it out myself, but
I want to go back to the white doctor just being aware of Black women's situations, because I don't know if y'all do this, but I do this whenever I interact with somebody of a different race. During a conversation, of course, you're like, when you meet new people, you're analyzing everything, you're listening to what they're saying. I always go like, damn, I can tell your culture, right? And for us, they'll say like, oh, you must have hung out with white people or stuff. No, when I meet somebody white and they can tell me different perspectives and I feel like they're not just riding a culture wave, like they truly get it, is when they start talking about their experiences, or you can feel their empathy. Like when you start talking about things, it's not just the overall like face value type thing.
Gloss over, yeah.
They have experienced a lot of things and they have worked with a lot of different people. And they come from a diverse background, which I so appreciate when I meet people. Like, you probably like, how can you tell that? Like, you can tell when somebody has just been involved in different aspects of life, which I value so much. So if I ever meet you and you ain't Black and I say, damn, you culture, that is like so much respect from me, because I can tell that you have just interacted with so many different types of people, walks of life, and you truly just value humanity. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's so key when you're dealing with people of other races.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify something. So for one, when I was doing like research on this argument, so I think, so in my mind, the first thing that popped in my head was the idea, I think either Lindsay or Alana brought up, was like, or maybe, I don't know, somebody said it was like this idea or the argument people have of like, well, how are you going to operate in non-Black environments if you've been around Black people your whole life? Which I don't agree with that mentality. So I didn't want to go that route. That's why I went kind of the socioeconomic route. So I want to clarify for the listeners, I am 1,000% in favor of being surrounded in an environment that looks like me, that is Black and is supportive. I think that's amazing. And that is a big reason of why I went to Howard. I went to Howard because I had been in predominantly white schools my entire life. And so I had never been around my people all day, all the time, ever. And so there is a different level of love and support. You even get it in a collegiate level. Like, I was talking to my mother the other day. I remember one time I was late to a final in college, and I literally had a professor call me like, "Where are you? Why are you late to this final?" But like caring, like, get your ass here. Like, you got 10 minutes to get here before you be in trouble, you know, but like at a PWI, I'd have just failed. So there is a different level of love and support, even from a medical standpoint. I think growing up, most of my doctors were white. Like my pediatrician was a white lady, but to like Alana's point, I could tell she recognized the fact that we were Black. Like, she was my pediatrician, my sister's pediatrician. She's my nephew's pediatrician. Like, she has been with our family all these years. So she supports us and she's taking care of us as needed to. And so there is that. I think the one thing, and I still believe, when I said that I believed part of my argument, the one thing I still think we have to consider is, and not to be like the pessimist in it, but is like the reality of whether that is possible everywhere. And kind of like what Alana said. So like, I went to the high school I went to because realistically, it was the better school. Like, the opportunities and access that school had was the better school. Not because it was the white school, but from an economic standpoint, that school had money. It was in a higher tax bracket. Like Chapel Hill in itself is kind of a bubble. So a lot of their professors, they're just paid more. So it's just a better school. It just so happens to be, it's a very white school. And so sometimes I think we have to realize sometimes the idea of being in all Black spaces all the time from an educational standpoint, it's not always feasible. Now, that Black cocoon outside of school, the church, I was in a Black Girl Scout troop. So we went to Durham to be in Girl Scouts so I could be in a Black Girl Scout troop. I was in a Black church. I was in Black activities. That's how my mother made sure. So that's why I say sometimes it has to be segmented. That's where my mother got my Black cocoon from. Yeah. When North Carolina Central had programs, I was at Central at their programs. That's why I knew about HBCUs. You know, when they were having stuff, I would be on Central's campus all the time, you know. So I saw, you know, educated, professional Black people. I saw Black lawyers and doctors, and I knew that those were, you know, feasible. Even when I would go to programs at Carolina had like a Black union group or whatever, and those Black kids would throw programs for high school students. So I would go to Carolina school around a bunch of Black kids being thrown on by Black college students who were at this white institution. So I still saw that. And so that's why I do, in that sense, agree with Tiani. I think it is critical, because that's why I believed I could be a Black engineer. I could be a Black doctor. I could be a Black whatever, because I saw them. You know, I saw these smart Black kids. I had no desire to be a lawyer, but I had seen these things. And I think that's where that Black cocoon comes from, of seeing these people like, oh, you can be this, you know, because I see you doing it and they look just like me and they from where I'm from. And so I think in that regard, that's why it's critical. So I do support the Black cocoon.
Real quick, because I missed that point when I was going on my tirade, but like I was on the fence between, you know, the two arguments, only because with it not being feasible in all locations around the US, what is feasible? Baby, there's an AME church. That's the church I went to. If you don't know if that's blackity black, okay. Like,
that's where my Girl Scout was. That's where my Girl Scout troop was.
We did Girl Scouts at AME, you know what I mean? At that church and everything. Like, so even if where you live doesn't necessarily have the access to a specific Black pediatrician or a Black dentist or something like that, there are ways where you can engulf your children and engulf your family in Black culture, you know what I mean? And it not necessarily be an all Black school, or your, you know, the caregivers are all Black, but I think that helps.
Yeah. I think
you're still getting that love and care and security and affection with
and it's
everything else.
It is.
Yeah, and that is absolutely important.
And
That was my safe space.
I like how y'all said that the Black Cocoon looks different everywhere that you are, and definitely different depending on your socioeconomic status and what your parents can provide for you. Or you'll end up with a bunch of Stacey Dashes. Okay.
Jesus.
Wow,
I also
she
appreciate
innocent.
I also appreciate that we are now recognizing how important it is to be around people that look like you versus like level of education. And what I mean by that is, okay, this test scores at this school A might be, 97 percentile, but your kid's gonna have so much more trauma going there versus going to a school where they're in the 85 percentile, but they are at least, one of 35% Black. And I, looking back on it, also didn't understand it at the time, but okay, so I went to elementary school in PG County, and we had a lot of Black kids whose adoptive parents were white. And so I appreciate the effort there, which might not have even been effort, because this is not hard to do in PG County, like in terms of finding a school with a bunch of Black kids. But yeah, that like seeing white parents with Black kids was not unusual.
I actually got a lot of my points from a book that was written to white parents on how to raise Black kids. Right? So like a lot of my points came from that. And if they are telling this to white people, why don't Black people believe it for themselves? That was one of my things. But I also did not realize what a luxury it was to grow up in Black excellence. So like the conversation these past few weeks is like, what is swag? What is swag? I grew up watching swag, right? Like we grew up at the Bayou Classic every year. So I was always around educated Blacks. Like these people had college degrees. Did they cut a fool at Bayou Classic? Absolutely. So I understood the balance there. But I like in preparation for this, I spoke to some of my coworkers. And like one of my coworkers went to high school. He went to a white Catholic high school in Chicago. And because he was such a great athlete, he went to a white college. And he had never had all Black everything. Like he had never been to an all Black school, only when he was in elementary school in Jamaica. Like, but when he moved to the United States, they wrapped him in white, and it made a difference. Like he is, and I say this with the utmost respect. And if it sounds racist, just cut it. He is a white man whisperer. Like he really is magnificent in navigating our bosses. Like it's amazing. Like he and he ended up golfing with them and all type of stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, so he has skills that I do not have and I do not wish to acquire, but he has no idea. Like, mind you, I've talked to him the past 4 or 5 years, so his daughter will be attending Howard University. Like, me, his wife, the little girl, she gonna go play volleyball at Howard University, who apparently now has a magnificent volleyball program. But he didn't understand that until he started getting around other Black people who had to explain it on a consistent basis. And so it's very possible for you to grow up and never experience Black excellence. I had no idea.
That's why I love working where I work. Like, not just my kids are Black excellence. I don't care what their circumstance is, right? But they're seeing something different when they come to school. So, yeah.
That's also why I'm so pro HBCU and why my mother was so big on being at HBCU, especially for me and my sister, because we grew up in white environments. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. When I got to Howard, it was a lot. It was a lot. I had never been in an all Black space in my life. Like I've been to church, but like all Black everything all day long.
All day.
It was a lot. All day. And I'm talking about like not, ratchet Black people. These is highly intelligent Black people from all over the country, different personalities. I didn't know how to navigate that. And
all over the world.
The difference is that
all over the world.
all over the
All
world.
over the world, yeah.
It's the
Yes.
quantity. It's the
And
quantity.
so the difference is that I had gotten really good at navigating being the only Black. So being like the smart Black girl. And that in itself is a different navigation that you kind of do have to have in life, because when you get in corporate, a lot of times you're still the only Black. I have been quite often. I am right now at work. And so I knew how to navigate that, but what I didn't know how to navigate was around my own peers, because that's not my battle anymore. It's not that I'm the only Black girl no more. Now we all smart, we all here, we all brilliant. So now it forced me to navigate my personal self. Okay, I need to know who I am in this space, because my identity had become the smart Black girl. Well, now we all the smart Black girls.
Right.
So who else are you? And so that was the difference. I think that Black spaces gives you the safety of not having to worry about physical safety. These people care about me, and now you're forced. Low key, it's a form of therapy, because it forces you to understand who you are on a deeper level. Like, okay, we all look the same. You know, we have different stories of how we got here, but, you know, we all recognize this Black struggle. So for the next 4 years, I don't have to think about that Black struggle when I'm here. So what else do I battle? Like, what else are my things? What else? How do I identify myself? And I think, like, I know everyone says Howard alum are annoying, and that's fine. But I think we cannot overemphasize the effect that experience had on us and who we have become, and allowing us to be the confident, specifically the confident Black women that we are, because we were able to grow and manifest in this safe space, surrounded by people who gave a damn. So it really makes a difference. Shout out to Howard.
Lizzie, are you about to say something?
I was just gonna say, it goes back to Paige's point. Well, for me, I connected with Paige just being like, oh, so there are other Black girls who talk a little proper when they have things to say, or like, I used to get told, Lindsay Rutledge, you know, when they call your name, they're looking for a white girl. But I got to Howard, there are other girls named Lindsay. Now, it may not be spelled like mine, you know, we get a little fancy when we get to the spelling, but it's still pronounced Lindsay. So it's like, I'm not the only Black Lindsay in the world. Like, there are other Black girls with my name.
So when I decided to go to Howard, specifically Howard, one of the comments that I kept getting from older Black people was, well, you know, you're about to leave that school being so arrogant, because all Howard alumni are like super arrogant. And I now realize it's not arrogance, we're just very comfortable in our Blackness. And because even when you go to, let's just say FAMU, for example, it's a state school, even though it's still at HBCU. So, you know, whatever percentage of people are going to be from Florida. So they're still going to culturally be the same, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Whereas at Howard, you can literally find any type of Black person that you want, right? And so people think about diversity as being ethnicity or nationality, but there's so much more to it. Like, there's the punk kids, there's the anime kids, there's the band kids, there's the theater kids, there's the party kid, like, and they're not the Black kids.
Right.
They're the whatever type of kids. And so I really think that our arrogance, and that's in air quotes for those of you listening, arrogance is just self-confidence.
I would just like to quote the great coach Deion Sanders when he said, "Don't let my confidence offend your insecurity."
Exactly.
We're not arrogant, we're confident.
Yeah, I have yet to meet
time and time again.
I have yet to meet someone who graduated from an HBCU with a lack of confidence. And this includes FAMU, Southern University, A&T, Morehouse, Spelman. They walk different, they talk different. Like, we do walk in the room like we belong there, because we've had professors and other people pour into, like, I know what I know that I know, and I know it. So you're not going to be able, you can take many, many things, but you cannot take my intelligence. You can never have my sauce. Okay. Like, even if you can do what I can do, you won't do it with the sauce I do it with. You don't, and that was poured directly into us in a number of different ways by a number of different people. So send your children to HBCU. HBCUs. I know everybody can't go to Howard, but you know, if they're the best of the best, they'll make it too.
Okay, so
ad.
more importantly, from sending your children to HBCU, alumni, please give back to your HBCU.
I'm a
Okay. See? Let's start writing those checks. Successful Black people. Okay. Woo! Yes.
checks if Uncle Joe go ahead and clear his loans out. Uncle Joe
Legally.
can get the check then.
Yeah, simple. That's a fact. Y'all, I just want to strike a balance. I want my children to be well-rounded, you know, and be able to play golf, but also play baseball at Gresham Park. If you know where Gresham Park is.
Baseball? Okay.
I don't know, but Howard now has an
You know,
amazing
they have
sports
all
team.
the sports. Football. All right, football
better
at
say-
Gresham Park. Are you happy?
Spectrum sport.
Shout out to Steph Curry
You know, kids play
For-
t-ball. That's
for
what I'm
bringing back Howard University's golf team. He put his money into Howard University's golf team. Thank you, Mr. Steph Curry. I heard they're actually pretty good now.
saying. Oh, well, look at that.
Like excellence driven.
Yeah. Just be
Either
great.
way.
That's the thing. Like Alana said, well-rounded.
Yes.
Period.
I want them to thrive in all situations and not feel like they need to cower back or can you get that, please?
I'm about to say, somebody baking cookies?
I'm about to say, what's for dinner? Alana, wrap this up.
All right, y'all. This was an excellent debate. I really appreciate the open discussion part as well. But as we close out this episode, all of you listeners, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We are on YouTube. We are on Instagram. We not on Twitter, but we individually on Twitter. You feel me? So you can tweet us. You can. Don't tweet you? Okay. So those who do not have the visual, don't tweet them. Never mind. I take it back. I've tried to keep us well-rounded. We are on Apple Podcasts, Apple Music. We on different platforms, goddammit. So just make sure
We're on
you
Spotify
follow
too, y'all.
us. We on Spotify, you know. Just
Links in the
comment.
description.
Let us know what
Links are
y'all
in the
think. What are your opinions about this Black Cocoon as well? So have a good one. Peace.
And don't shorten the word cocoon.